Welcome then. Thank you for joining me as we look at another psalm. And I just wanted to take a moment, as I do occasionally, to remind you that these are not meant to be exhaustive, thorough expositions of any of the psalms. They're just short, brief, devotional studies. And I hope through them to give you some insights and perhaps some tools that will help you unpack the psalms for yourself and whet your appetite to dig a little deeper. It's been a great blessing and encouragement to hear from time to time how God is using these studies in different people's lives. And I trust He will continue to do that as we look at Psalm 117 today. This psalm, of course, is famous for being the shortest psalm, indeed the shortest chapter in the whole Bible. But don't be deceived, friends. The Spirit of God can get a great deal of truth into what seems to us like a very small space. In fact, the great reformer Martin Luther found so much truth in this short 2-verse psalm that he wrote no less than 36 pages of commentary on it. So verse 1 brings us a call to praise. Now, we've seen many calls to praise in the Psalms, but what is unusual and striking about this one is that it is addressed to all nations and all peoples. Paul cites the first verse of this psalm in Romans 15:11, where he's seeking to convince Jewish Christians that it had always been God's plan to include the Gentile nations in his kingdom. It wasn't a divine afterthought. It wasn't some sort of plan B. It was always part of his eternal purposes. I have to confess that as a non-Jew, of course, it always surprises me when you discover how exclusive, narrow-minded indeed, the Jewish people were in their view of the purposes of God as far as the Gentile nations were concerned. When you think of God's original promises to Abraham, repeated to Isaac and Jacob, when you think of prophecies made by men like Isaiah, when you see the many universal references in the Psalms, the Jewish hymn book, how could they miss it? But then, of course, I guess we all have our blind spots. And as John prophesies in Revelation, around the throne in heaven, in eternity, there will be representatives from every nation, tribe, people, and language that has ever existed. So verse 1 is a call to praise, and verse 2 are causes for praise. And two specific reasons are given. First of all, the greatness of God's steadfast love. The Hebrew word that's translated great in English means much more than simply strong or mighty. It also has the idea of something superior, something that, because it is superior, has prevailed and prevails over something inferior. See, God's love to his people is infinitely, immensely superior to anything else in the whole of creation, which is why we are secure in it. Why we are secure in him, because nothing in the whole universe can separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. Because the love of God is superior to and has prevailed over every other force in the universe. Isn't that mind-blowing? The second cause for all peoples everywhere to praise and worship God is that his faithfulness endures forever. The scriptures often put God's steadfast love and his faithfulness together. Think of Lamentations, for example, in chapter 3, where Jeremiah, sitting in the ruins of Jerusalem, testifies that the steadfast love of the Lord never changes. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Over the years, the Hebrew word that has been translated faithfulness in English acquired additional meanings, one of which was immovability or unshakability. I came across it when preaching through Isaiah some time ago. And in Isaiah 22:23, God says he will fasten Eliakim like a peg in a secure place. And the word for secure place is the same as the idea behind faithfulness here. In other words, friends, God is utterly and unchangeably and unshakably faithful. Therefore, whoever you are, wherever you live in the world, give your life in praise and worship to the only true and living God.